Hello and welcome to Into the Light. I'm your host, Edina Mauvana. Today we have Dr. Karen Kan. Karen is a medical doctor and doctor of light medicine. She empowers highly sensitive individuals to embrace their gifts as a superpower. As the author of Sensitivity is Your Superpower and founder of the Tolpakan Healing Method, she helps people overcome conditions like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome while guiding them to shine their light and bright positively into the world. I'm so excited to have you, Karen. I know you were also on a recent movie that was put out, you guys created, called Inside Effects, and all about healing the body, how our bodies heal ourselves. So thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have you.
Edina, thank you for the very warm welcome. I'm just thrilled to be here. Bless you.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I want to cover your background, how you got into this work, obviously all of the spirituality and, healing modalities that you use. So yeah, can you talk to us first about your specific healing method that you created, the Tolpakan method? What is that exactly? And what do you tell people first when they're curious about your work?
Right. Well, as you may already know, I'm a trained medical doctor, trained in the conventional medical system, and I've since retired, 2019, in fact, retired. And right before that, I had been very interested in energy medicine and healing because of my own healing journey, healing from autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, kind of fatigue syndrome, allergies, EMF sensitivities, and a whole bunch of other things. And so was really diving deeper and deeper and deeper into energy medicine while I was also doing acupuncture and holistic medicine. And it was at that point where I was studying all these different types of modalities and just absolutely loving it. I had studied the emotion code, the body code, absolutely loved Dr. Bradley Nelson. He's fantastic. And so I was working with my patients in both doing that, then doing acupuncture and counseling, coaching, nutritional coaching to the degree that I could. Us medical doctors aren't all that, well-versed in nutritional things, which is really funny. But then what was happening was that I was finding things outside the system the systems that I had learned. And some of them were unusual. Dr. Brad first introduced me to the idea of entities being an imbalance that could affect someone. And when he taught us, it was funny because I was live in Utah with him. And I swear half the room was like leaning forward going, tell me more, right? And I was one of those, right? The other half of the room was like, I want to leave.
Too much, yes. It's like too far out.
So I think once I connected that, it seemed like things started building, like there was something like, aha, you got it. Because I've always been interested in the past of horror movies and so things. For such a sensitive soul, it's so funny that I like suspenseful horror movies, ghosts, like aliens, like I love all that stuff. I love all those movies. So there must have been a reason. Now I understand the reason. So I started finding things that were off-world, things that were different, I found a mentor who helped me out because I had got a lot of answers from source, which is part of the healing modality. And as I'm getting them, I thought, okay, I'm either nuts or the world is really that crazy. So this mentor, Tamara Jo Patterson, really helped me because she's highly intuitive. And I would say stuff to her thinking she's going to think I'm nuts. And she's like, yeah, I know. So that was super helpful. And then one day it was like, okay, so I was like writing on pieces of paper and trying to remember all these different things I was testing that was outside of all the systems I had learned. And then finally had this, very spirited conversation with my angelic team, if for lack of a better term. And they insisted that I share what I was getting with the world. And I resisted and argued at that point because I said, well, there's a lot of great healing modalities. We've got reconnective healing, we've got Reiki, we've got, theta healing, we've got body code, emotion code, we got Psyche, and I just named off all these things. And it was just this really persistent message. It was like, nope, we want you to express your modality. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, fine, why? And they said, number one, that people may not resonate with the other ones, or there's something that I explain in a certain way that helps them whereas maybe another modality may not connect. And I got that, like everyone's unique. just like I'm a figure skater, so it's just like one coach will say
Oh,
things
I was a
one
figure
way.
skater
Oh,
too.
that's great. I'm actually competing in adult figure skating now.
Oh,
So
amazing. I love that.
yeah,
What a
so I started
coincidence.
as an adult, and so, but it was funny because one skating coach would say it one way, and I wouldn't get it, right? And another skating coach, same
Say it another way.
thing, but said it
Yeah.
another way, and I
Yeah.
totally got it. Like,
Right.
or my
Right.
body totally got it. So that was the idea, and then the angels did say, well, here's the other thing. It's part of your soul expression. And I get that piece. Like everyone is here to express their unique selves. So even if it wasn't like the greatest thing since sliced bread, it's part of the soul expression. So then I acquiesced and said, okay, I'll do it. So guide me. So the
Wow.
modality itself really is 3 basic steps. Yeah,
Okay.
Tolpakan Healing. Um, it's align, ask, and activate.
Okay.
So the align step is many people say going into the 0 point field or going to
Right.
stillness. Well, I for one, not a really great meditator. I'm just
Hard, right?
and I'm constantly moving. Like it's really hard to get me sit still for more than like half an hour, except maybe during a movie. So I didn't really understand how to do it until very recently.
Okay.
So I actually teach this method for free, Stillness on the Fly, and we'll maybe put that link underneath this,
Yeah, definitely.
stillnessonthefly.com. And it's like how to be fully here and now. And as we feel energy in our bodies, we can connect through into the 0 point field and we align with source. And there, in that being state, then we do muscle testing. So I call it divine muscle testing because I'm not asking my guides. Sorry, guys, nothing personal. They're laughing. So I'm not asking my guides specifically. I'm not asking my subconscious mind because there can be some issues there. I'm asking the highest information
Right.
from source and the 0 point, if you will. And then the third step to activate is after we ask the question, what is, very many different kinds of questions. That's my claim to fame, is not that I'm so amazing, powerful healer, but that I ask the right questions and teach my students how to ask the right questions.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they ask the question, and then at that point, then we can activate those energies because we just pull them from the quantum. Just pull
From the
them from the
quantum.
quantum field, whatever we need. And we don't even need to know the name of it, the number of hertz it is, or anything like that. That's where the God team helps us out because we're just like, it's like we're just directing, okay, this
Yeah.
is the attention, this is what we desire. And okay, you guys do the work. Thanks, guys.
Is it focused on the specific traumas that are creating the blockages in the first place? Is that really where that energy work is being directed?
Well, that's a great question. Many of the modalities, including, emotion code and body code, do focus on things that
Hmm.
are off
Right.
or so-called negative blocks or things like that. Then other modalities focus, for example, on Hatha codes and balancing by numbers, focus on downloading and activating specific Fibonacci or number frequencies to yourself. You
Right.
can download positive tree frequencies or magnesium or whatever it is. So mine is sort of a combination of that, plus any other information you need to know. So we actually have guides, like a guide 1, guide 2, guide 3, and we use this sort of like a cheat sheet when we do muscle testing. So we actually have guides that people can check, column A, B, C, even or odd row, very similar to the emotion code. Page 1 or guide 1 is all about imbalances, systems to test, things like that. Guide 2 is positive energies, positive morphic fields, and blueprints that we can actually download to ourselves. And then, of
Oh,
course, we muscle test what we need, if anything. And then guide 3 is really more information. So this is a smattering of things, everything from what's my soul mission to what's my soul type to things about the higher self, dimensional realms. So we just kept adding whatever I was getting as answers. If it kept happening over and over and over again, I would just kind of add it to the list. And finally, after the angelic team convinced me to actually make it a program, I actually wrote it down. So,
wow. Wow.
yeah, so it's not just about imbalances. Sometimes you need or could use a blueprint for something. And I'm happy
Right.
to give you some examples if you would like.
Well, just tell me, so when you're working with your clients or people are going through this process, first of all, are they anywhere in the world? Like you can work with people remotely or obviously on Zoom. So I know that they're having physical affliction like fibromyalgia maybe is something you had. And where are they usually starting from? And then where are they usually trying to fix? Maybe give me a couple examples of those types of stories.
Sure. So right now, everything that I do, including all the teaching and training, is remote. So it is
Yeah.
Zoom, and or I have another system for my VIP clients where it's mostly audio. And the thing is that because we're working with the 0 point field, the quantum, it doesn't really matter the distance, as you already know,
Yeah.
based on your research and what you do. And time is not really a factor. So we can ask questions past, present, and future. Future definitely fluxes depending on our state of being. So I usually try not to go there too much because then people get attached to, like things and in the future. So we normally test what's relevant in the past and then what's going on right now. And so
Right.
we can connect energetically through the quantum to each other, and then I will muscle test for them on behalf. Like, for example, if they're in the VIP program, then maybe they don't muscle test. Now, a lot of them do because we taught them how to do that. But
What's the
and some
muscle test? Can you tell me what the muscle test is exactly?
right. So a muscle test is really a way of getting yes/no answers from. In this case, we're connecting to the source field.
Hmm.
And we use our body for that feedback. So the easiest
Right.
muscle test a lot of people use initially, or beginners, is called the sway test. So we teach people to go into that stillness space, that aligned state, and then
Aligned.
they start practicing their yeses and nos. So, for example, if they stand up, sometimes they'll close their eyes. We tell them to hang on to something, just in case. Close their eyes, say, show me a yes, and then oftentimes people will sway forward. Show me a no, and they'll sway backwards. Now that's a little slow, but I know some very like well-established healers that still use that beginner method because that's their favorite method. I tend to use ones with my fingers. I've learned a whole bunch from Dr. Brad. So I've learned this one, I've learned this one. Now I've made it this one, this one, this one. I can do all of them now. And the one I do the most is a finger rub test, which unfortunately is really hard to see on Zoom because it's so micro, it's so tiny. And one of my students actually, he got really good at a nasal one.
Oh,
So he
wow.
can actually, through his nose, I think a yes is when it's clear, and then a no, his nostrils actually stick together a little bit. Something like that, or vice
Wow.
versa. I don't do that one. So I'll have to ask him again how he does it. But it's so subtle that you can get a yes and no that way. And once a person's really good at it, then what happens is that we ask the questions that are relevant for that person's issues. So, for example, if they
Okay.
said, well, my doctor says I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis or autoimmune
Mm,
or chronic
right.
fatigue, right? So we can very simply in Tolpakan Healing, we connect to the 0 point field together. I test my
Okay.
yeses and nos, make sure they're on, make sure I'm hydrated. And then we just go to the charts and we go, okay, so what's causing and contributing to this constellation of symptoms of fatigue, of pain, of insomnia, blah? Is it in guide one? Yes, no, right?
Hmm.
And say we get a yes. And say, okay. And usually the most important comes first. Or advanced
Right.
question would be how many things is available for healing today? We would count. Is it
Oh,
10? More than 10? Nope. Is it less than 10? Yes. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5? Yes. There's 5 things today we can heal. And then we go to the guides and go, what's the most important thing? Is it in guide one? If we get a yes, we say, is it column A, column B, column C? Oh, yes, it's a column C. Is it an even or odd numbered row? Oh, it's an even numbered row. Okay, well, is it in row 2? Yes. Okay. So then we go, well, what's in that box? In that box, it says core beliefs in relationships, addiction patterns, mental debris. So we test each of them till we get whichever one's a yes. Say it's core beliefs, right? And we have a little chart in our course. These are the core beliefs. So we say, is it this one that's the problem? This one, this one, this one, and then we get a yes, and then we heal that belief.
oh, interesting.
Then we
Yeah.
go to the next imbalance or next. It could be that the second thing that needs to heal is in guide two. Maybe there's a positive blueprint they need. Like, for example, one of the doctors in India he ended up in ICU with COVID, supposedly. His wife had messaged me urgently. He wasn't even a client or actually a paid student, but he admired my work. And his wife said he's in the ICU, he's on oxygen, he's really in trouble. Can we have a session? And I don't normally do one-off sessions. I normally do a whole package because I love to see people's transformation over time and we get the best results because they
Okay.
take charge of their own healing. But in this case, I just did it for free. So I just said, okay, I'm just going to work on him and I want you to tell me what happens tomorrow. So I worked on him and it was interesting because we actually found that he did not have the positive morphic field of oxygenation. So we downloaded it to him. And according to my muscle test, his oxygen saturation, which is a measurable thing through a little thing on your finger, um,
Mm.
should go from the 60s to the 90s. Now, I didn't know what his O2 sat was, but given that he had oxygen on, it probably was on the low side. He wasn't intubated, thank God, but he had,
Wow.
low oxygen. So the other thing is we found that he had an electromagnetic frequency toxicity. So that was in guide 1 in here.
Wow.
So we pulled that out. Actually, all of India was being hit with it. So we pulled it out of all of India to the degree that was allowed. And then we downloaded oxygen. Source told me his O2 sat would go to the 90s. I'm like, okay, if you say so, right? So I get a hold of her the next day because India is like X number of hours difference, right? So I finally get a hold of the wife and she's, oh, he's doing much better. His oxygen saturation is in the 90s now.
Wow.
I
So
said,
it did
okay,
actual,
good.
okay.
Good. Okay. So check. I
Oh
wasn't
my
making it
gosh.
up. Check. It worked. And then I said, tell me daily what's going on. She did not. So I kept bugging her, got a hold of her again. She says, oh, he's back to work. I said, wait, hang on a second. He was in the ICU 5 days ago and he's back to work. And she's like, maybe he's not perfect, but he decided he went back to work. And in fact, he told me to tell you that he saved the life of a baby girl and mother because they had to do a crash C-section and he was an anesthesiologist and it was meant to be. So that was like, most
Wow.
of the time
Yeah.
I end up crying when I tell the story, but I just told it Friday and I'm good.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's amazing because yeah, so it's having these you did the work, oxygen came. So obviously we're, that's a great healing. It's much faster than anything else that other energy work might do, right? The
Well,
quantum power
yeah,
is
the
really
quantum, there's
activated.
no time, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of having the attention on what it is you desire and being in the still point. Your being
Mm,
in the still point really helps a lot. It helps us be because then you don't block it, right? Block it with
right.
your beliefs or whatever, because you're so focused on the energy in the body. In the technique, we teach people that as you're doing the directive, and basically asking for what you want. We have a format for that, but once you do the directive, then it's just done. You don't do it, you just direct it. Other people, like beings, helpers, whatever, they do it, and then you just move on. And then you can always test what's going on the next day or what else needs to heal or how long will they need to process. And
Right.
sometimes we get the, am I allowed to heal this? And sometimes we get a no.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, tell me about how you're connected directly to source because this is like through our intuitive powers. Yeah, I started to learn a little bit more about getting abilities through our own. I know you said as a sensitivity being the superpower, right? So, how do you describe that to people where it's like you're connecting to God source, like when you get that, like, oh, they don't believe in this stuff, or this sounds like really out there, or how do we know it's good or
Yeah, it
bad or
gets too
bad energy?
religious. It gets
Yeah.
way too religious. So that's why
Right.
sometimes, especially for the nerds that are really left brain, I talk about the quantum or the 0 point field or something like that. And it's
Hmm.
basically getting your ego mind out of the way. But if you try to
Right.
go, stop thinking, stop thinking, stop thinking negative thoughts, it doesn't work, right? It's like saying pink elephant, pink elephant. All you see is a pink elephant. So what we do is we have people get into the body. So it takes longer to describe it than do it. So I think we have time to actually do it today with your permission, Edina, of course.
Oh, on this show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Okay,
show
so it's that
everybody.
quick. We can do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Now, if
Okay.
people want the longer description and the why and the how, and it's in chapter 4 in the Sensitivities or Superpower book. It's called
Okay.
Stillness, Stillness through Observing Internal Movement. It's one of a number of ways you can get into the 0 point. It's just one doorway. It's not the only doorway. It's really easy for people who are sensitive because most sensitives tend to be clairsentient. They feel stuff in their body. They feel
Right.
emotions. They feel other people's pain. So that's why
Yeah.
we use that skill as a superpower rather than as a curse.
Yeah,
Train it.
it's your connection to that being close to the source, right? Through the
Yeah,
sensitivity.
our bodies are is literally like the conduit between
Yeah.
the seen and unseen. So our
Right.
nervous systems could be the interaction point or the bridge. So in this technique, we tell people that are first beginners, so we'll share with your audience, what we would teach newcomers, is we would have them just rub their hands and get some energy flowing. And a lot of times people go, oh, I feel my hands are getting hot, right? Great, awesome. So we'll have them do that, and then we'll have them close their eyes and relax their hands. And then 3 steps: focus on the inside of the body at the level of the hands, and then feel any waves or movement or pulsing going on. And then follow that flow wherever it goes without judgment, and just kind of scanning the body from the hands up, maybe up and down the body, to see, where do I feel energy flow? Where do I feel movements? Or just scanning for movement. And you may notice, well, I feel it more on one side than the other. That's okay. More upper than lower body, maybe. That's okay too. Doesn't really matter. And so as we focus on the movement inside the body, we actually enter the 0-point field. And then we connect to source that way. It doesn't have to be anything intellectual at all. And then see if we can open our eyes. This is a little bit more advanced. So see if we can open our eyes now gently and still continue feeling the pulsing or energy in our body. How about you, Edina? How's it going?
I feel it kind of up and down my arms, I think, because that's where the energy was generated. Yeah. And I kind of have a light pulsing when my eyes were closed. You kind of feel like you're getting light beams or something. Yeah, a little bit of that. So
yeah, that's it. I mean, it's simple. You can teach it to children, right?
So this is how you get into 0 point. That's what we're achieving in this, basically, your meditative state quickly.
And the thing is, people are like, well, how does it work? Well, that's the left brain trying to ask, how does it work, right? So I'll explain it for the left brain people. Yeah. So basically what happens is, teachers from the ancients to modern day teachers have said to us around monkey mind, and our repetitive knowing thoughts can sometimes be in the way, and to meditate, right? And the idea is to get to that place where your mind isn't blah 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 blah, but what's for dinner, blah, that guy was blah, right? So here in this technique, you focus on the movement of your body. Right now I'm doing what's called stillness on the fly, so another level up. So I'm actually talking while I'm still feeling the pulsing in my body simultaneously. So it's 2 awarenesses at once. I'm talking, but I'm also pulsing, and I feel the pulsing. So what happens is your mind is so busy with feeling whatever you're feeling in the body, all your energy circuits come to the present moment. And as Carolyn May says, you can't heal unless you're in the present.
Right.
Because your energy circuits are in the back, in the past or in the future, you don't have enough juice to heal your body in this moment. And this is the only time, so-called time, that you get to heal.
The power of now, right?
Exactly. And I didn't understand what Eckhart was talking about initially when I read his book. Because I'm like, mindfulness, I'm going to wash the dishes, and okay, what am I doing? I would get so distracted. But if I'm feeling the body, the mind goes, what am I doing? I'm feeling the body. Where's it going? Where's the feeling? Okay, there's the feeling. It just completely,
it gives you something. Yeah.
It just stops talking because I've got a job for it to do.
And so you're in this meditative state. That's where we get the clarity that we need, and attract the things we want, and I'll activate all those laws of the universe. So that's awesome. What I really like is, it sounds like you're a really busy person. You're go. And this is a quicker method than maybe some of these teachers have taught us. Like, is that the case where you're providing like a more efficient daily way to heal and do it faster than maybe what other people have traditionally done?
Well, in some ways it's whatever works, right? Certain people, they're just their makeup, they just love sitting meditation, and they'll sit there for an hour, 2 hours a day. And I'm like, if that works for you, please continue doing that. I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. For those that it's not their thing, right? It's not their thing. This is just another avenue. So at the end of the day, it's whatever works. I have found, Edina, that sometimes in the past, some of my colleagues or friends, sometimes spiritual teachers even, or yogis, would be so zen, right, in their yogic practice and their yoga. They go back to their regular life and they're freaking out over the contractor or their dog biting another dog, or whatever's going on in real life. And so one of the intentions of stillness, or stillness through observing internal movement, or stillness on the fly, the level of that, is really in every moment you have access to that. You do not have to sit. You do not have to close your eyes. Beginners do, but that's okay. You can just feel the energy in your body immediately. And what happens is whatever emotion you're going through, up, down, backwards, angry, sad, it doesn't matter. It's not bad. You just
Yeah.
honor that and just go, what's my body doing? You could label it
Yeah.
as,
Back
I'm
to
upset.
balance. Yeah.
What's my body doing? Oh, wow, I feel this pulsing going on. Isn't that interesting? If your mind was going to commentate, that would be okay, you know?
Yeah.
And then what happens is that, as you said and alluded to, insights drop in. So when we're
Mm-hmm.
in that 0 point field, when we are in that meditative state or stillness on the fly, it's very subtle. For the clairaudient people, they'll actually hear a word, right? Or something like that. Or the clairvoyant people might see a scene briefly, flash on, flash off.
Right.
It's very subtle, and then you just
And
go with
I get ideas because it's like I have a
yes,
claircognizance, and so the logical things start to line up, and then I get all my best ideas. So I totally get that. And
exactly.
I started learning about 0 point. I was reading Tao science and the quantum basis for understanding all this stuff when I was writing my book. And so I just, to me, that sounded like what religions had taught as the concepts around God and source energy being the same as Allah or God, and things from I had learned, being coming from a Muslim background. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into this work, and like your background, like, because I know that you obviously are doing something with the quantum and all of that, the healing work and being a doctor, but how did you come from your own spiritual religious background and tradition into this work?
Well, I actually had been really, really religious growing up. Christian background. My mom was raised Protestant, my dad Catholic, and she ended up changing to Catholicism so she could marry him.
Yeah.
And so they're still pretty religious now, not terribly strict. So I had this in just this faith from a really long, until I went to university, where they teach you all about logic and the
And
illogicalness.
diversity.
Yes. So my future then boyfriend, future husband, now ex, he said, I can't believe you just believe in God and not even question it. And I said,
Mm,
well, why not? And he's like, well, do you even know about the Christian Crusades and what your Catholic people did to
mm,
those people? And I'm like, I've never heard of them, right? Like they don't really publish
mm.
this in Sunday school, what the Crusades did. So after he, of course, gave me the whole history lesson, I was so
Yeah.
aghast with horror that I became atheist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I became atheist, and I thought, well, that's a bunch of bull s, that I grew up
Yeah.
with, and what,
Chucked
and
it
I just
all
did
away.
life.
Yeah.
I was atheist. I just did life, and it wasn't until I got sick, which was my way of reconnecting to spirit at the time. I was just pissed
Mm,
and sick and resentful, and yeah, and it was then that it was like either A, I kill myself, or B, maybe decide I have a choice. So I decided that, well, I could kill myself this with this. As a medical doctor, I could really sneaky, and then he would get all the
yeah.
insurance. I mean, I literally was thinking this stuff. I was so down and out. And then, but something just was a voice, almost my own voice, but one night I'm crying to myself to sleep again. And the voice said, you have a choice. And I was like, no, I don't. Who are you anyway?
You feel helpless. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, I knew it was my own voice, but I was like, why is this person so calm? This is
It's
so
like in
weird.
your
And it was like, you have a choice. Just kept repeating, you have a choice. And I'm wanting to argue with it. Of course, it's like 3 a.m. in the morning. My husband's asleep. I'm like crying, and I'm like trying to argue with this inner voice. And I'm like, I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. I'm like, fine. Well, if I have a choice, I would divorce my husband, right? Silence. I was like, interesting.
Oh no, that's
So
not good.
well, that's exactly what happened. And I finally decided to stop blaming everybody else for my problems, stop
Right.
blaming him for how resentful I was, stop blaming my parents for being whatever they were, I thought they were being, and trying to make them happy. They were never happy. Trying to make my husband happy. He was never happy. So I decided, you know what? F it. I'm just going to figure out how to make myself happy. Oh, wait, I don't even know who I am. Well, that's a problem. So that
Mm,
self-discovery and it's still happening, of course, I attracted the right teacher for me at the time.
yes.
I attracted the right book, the TV show, the movies,
Right.
whatever it was, because I
Right.
decided I was going to live, not kill
Mm,
myself.
oh
And
yeah.
and yes, I made the hard decision to divorce my husband, which devastated my parents. but they also had
Mm.
issues of their own. And then I came to realize that whatever their advice was for me, they can't do it better.
No, you gotta live your own life.
Right. So it was really a
Wow.
blessing. I really feel that the fibromyalgia, the autoimmune, everything is a blessing because I've
Wow.
learned so much. I've been able to help many more people. The first book I published, Healing Chronic Pain, A Holistic Approach, it's a tome, 416 pages, but it was like everything that I'd learned up to that point about,
Wow.
spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, nutritional healing
Mm.
and helping people because hey, I'm an MD, so if I'm going to heal myself, well, how can I share that knowledge with other people?
Yeah. And it sounds like you do so much holistically, like every area, having the medical background and, all the different health and wellness components to go into the healing process. It's like it's a whole thing, not just one area. So the alignment with the spiritual side is obviously very important. So I talk about that a lot with my guests. And yeah, so this is great because the method sounds like a real go-to for that highest level and the fastest, quickest way to potentially get results. So I love that.
Thank
Um,
you.
you mentioned that you don't like to do like one-off, oh, just help me this one time. You like to do things like see the progress and make sure people are supported along the way. Can you tell me like how long you generally work with clients and who your kind of ideal person that you're working with right now or that you're trying to put together? Are you doing like group things or one-on-one things, or I know you're teaching also other practitioners as well, right? So is there, yeah,
Right.
what are you currently working on with your
Yeah, so in
program?
our community, we call it the Light Medicine Community. It's on an app called
Yeah.
Circle, and that's free to
Okay.
join.
Yeah.
Every
The
month we
circle app.
have a free monthly mini healing. So we get
Awesome.
on something like this on Zoom, and people submit their requests, and we hold them in what's called a healing basket for 24 hours. So as we work together, and there's hundreds of people that submit their requests for that once a month, and then whoever can
Wow.
make it live, we make it live, and then we tune in to everyone. Everyone goes to stillness. I double check,
Yeah.
do my muscle testing, make sure that there's and nobody with a problem in doing that when normally there is not. And then we ask, well, what's for the highest and greatest good for all? What is the theme for this month? And then we just do any group healings. And then
Mm.
we will take some and source. We have the whole spreadsheet of who submitted issues. And then I'll just connect with source, say, who do we do the individual demo on? So we can just
Oh,
show
wow.
people how Tolpakan Healing works. And so usually source picks 3 to 5 people. And then the person's usually there, so we unmute them, and then we have we do our little cards and everything like that, and then we ask them for feedback afterwards, how they're doing, so people can see how the modality works. So that's free. And as far as
Cool.
one-on-one, we have a couple of offerings. One is the VIP with me, and that is at a higher price point, but that is like 10 sessions of 50 minutes. So every other week so it's a 12-week program, meaning that you have a session with me every other week. Sorry, it's 12 sessions. I can't count here. It's 12 sessions, not 10. 12 sessions, and then you also get a self-healing program worth about $500, $600. And in that, you work through a self-healing program at the same time we're working together. What it is if people work with me because I've just done so many thousands of healing sessions, is I just know where to go quickly. That's all. It's
Mm.
just not because I can do it better. It's just because I know what question to ask because of
Right,
all the
right.
experience. So we can ask the right question. And of course, the medical doctor background is helpful. Sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so freaked out over my CAT scan, right? Or my
Mhm.
herniated disc or whatever. And then I'll give
Right.
the perspective of the medical doctor and who's bridging science, spirituality, healing, medicine, that kind of thing. And so I'll explain to them what it really means. I can't tell you how many
Mm.
times people get freaked out after going to their doctor, and then I re-explain it in layman's terms in a way that they can understand, and then they're no longer freaked out.
Yeah, so it's like you finding the source of that emotional
Well,
issue,
not
right?
not even that, just
Yeah.
reinterpreting people go, oh my God, I've got, whatever, I've got a herniated disc. I said, did you
Yeah.
know that the herniated disc may have nothing to do with your pain? Oh, well, that's how they diagnosed me. And they said that was causing the pain. I said, well, actually, in the studies show that you can have a lot of people with herniated disc. And in a double blind study, nobody knows who has pain or not, and they can't tell. They can't tell between the people who have pain, people that don't have pain, based on their x-rays. So,
Oh,
that kind of stuff, like then that's helpful if people need that degree of help from a
clarity.
medical doctor who's also
Yeah.
holistic. We also
Yeah.
have a VIP program with one of my Tolpakan Level 2 certified practitioners, where I
Hmm.
meet with her every other week to discuss, the case, where it's going. She does the healing. I give her some ideas. She does the work with the client one-on-one. And they
Oh,
also get,
yeah.
the program to work through themselves. So they start learning, like baby steps, how to do their
Yeah.
own healing. That's the VIP programs. Then we have the Tolpakan Level 1 training program. That's basically to learn to do what I do. And it's self-healing. You work on yourself, your family members, right? We give you the guides, the instructions, live training, it's optional, but live training 3 times a month, ask
Wow.
questions, all that kind of stuff. And then of course there's the practitioner, which we only take 6 a year. So,
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, and what about the movie that was made, The Inside Effects, and talking about you and everything you've created? Tell me a little bit about that movie, because the release you said was just last Saturday, right? So it's a big deal right now.
Yeah, it was July 8th, 2023. And
Amazing.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was a mini dream that to be in some sort of documentary movie talking about healing, but I really didn't know the how. Stillness occur, like being in stillness. I'm also in a movement called dream weaving, where we, help manifest our dreams within our groups. And yeah, it just kind of literally fell in my lap. And one of my best friends, suddenly I know this. He says, "Oh yeah, and when I'm in my 50s, I was making a movie. I'm 60 now. I'm a little late, so I'm making a movie this year, and you're in it." And I was like, "Okay, what are we talking about?" And then, how the body heals itself. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got tons to say about that."
Yeah, definitely. And
We launched it, and it's free for everyone. It's 2 hours and change, and it's free for everyone. We have some amazing luminaries on there, including Lynn McTaggart, one of my favorite journalist researchers, very well known, working with lots of scientists. Dr. John DeMartini, who's been in
yes.
health and wellness for a very long time. We have some comedians like JP Sears.
Oh, Sears. Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a card. He's hilarious. And we have some other people that are controversial yet very, very researched, like Dr. Tom Cowan, Andrew Kaufman, Amanda
Mm,
Vollmer, Mickey Willis, from the Plandemic series, Dr. Bradley Nelson, of course, my colleagues,
yeah.
some of my other healing colleagues as well, some naturopaths in there. Yeah, so we have a smattering of people from their varying different perspectives on how the body heals itself. So it's a very, positive movie. It's
Right.
to empower people, and we're really passionate about it. And it's free for anyone to watch and download.
Yeah, well, I know, like, I watched the Heal movie, Dr. Joe Dispenza changed my life on, Amazon Prime. And so this is great, because I want to, obviously under the episode, we'll have it listed. People, it sounds like they can go to the website. Where else can people find you if they're really interested in, your programs or the content? Where's the best place that we want to have people go to find you?
Well, I'm in most of the usual places. I mean, my website's karencan.com, but I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. Not that I know how that all works, but
Social media in
we like
general.
pretty pictures. So, okay. So I'm on Instagram. I'm also in my light medicine community, where I'm the most active, and people can, get in there free.
And the app, you said the app, what was it called? We can link it down below the
Circle.
episode.
Yeah,
Circle,
Circle.
right? Yeah,
So
the Circle
there's
app.
a link to the light medicine community. We'll give you that link that you can just come in free, say hi.
I love
And
it.
like I said, we have monthly mini healings that you can join in. There's a calendar there. I post other, positive things. We have different spaces, one for holistic healing, one for more, health freedom, one for more like spiritual stuff. So it depends what you're
Mhm.
interested in, what you like to do. And sometimes we'll have some
Amazing.
guest speakers and things like that. So that's free, and that's where I interact the most. So, and of course YouTube.
Yeah, right.
Popular
The
on YouTube.
videos. Yeah, well, all of it's increasing right now. I mean, I think what we're seeing is more and more people are on these spiritual and healing journeys, right? And we want to drive people to come to the apps and to the resources. I talk a lot about the ascension process, and I think what we're seeing is, in this time and place where the world is, we're going to just be cracking all of this open, and people are going to start just flooding into, these resources just to understand what's going on in the universe right now. If nothing else, you talked about a lot of different things that people are still confused about, like, what is, quantum field? How does this work? What are we trying to do here? And like, I'm just excited to have you on because we're bringing so much awareness and spreading the message. It's really important right now. So thank you so much. That's amazing.
Yeah,
And
thank you, Edina.
yeah, thank you. And any final thoughts that you'd like to, leave our listeners with, words of wisdom, things that you'd like to best, help with this mission you're on. I love your, where you came from. Your background is, in the medical community, obviously very real stuff that's happening. And, what do you like to tell people is kind of like, your biggest inspiration and words of wisdom?
Well, I think that everyone has that power to and the ability to connect to source. In fact, I've muscle tested so many people. If there's a block, to accessing that, and usually the answer is no, which is fascinating to me. That it's that people just need a
Blocked.
doorway, right? I provide
Right.
one, but there are many, many doors, right? Like Dr. Joe Dispenza, he has his doorway. Now maybe he asks you to do 40 minutes a day. It doesn't work for me, so I don't do his stuff, right? But I totally respect all the time, money, and effort that he's put into all the research, and it's not wrong. It's just different doorways for different people. So find what works for
Right.
you, right? So the message is you can either you can do that. Find what works for you, and then get support, whether it be in my community or somebody else's community, or create one of your own, and surround yourself with like-minded people, high vibe people who, when you feel good, you feel elevated, instead of pulling up the dregs of it. Can be really tiring doing it that way. So
Right.
before we
Right.
can really help others, we need to be full of ourselves and of source.
Of course. Yeah. And we're community building and seeking right now. And, so many of us are coming from different religious traditions, like we talked about, like Christian background, Muslim background. I mean, people are trying to find their way. And like, I like to think about it like we're creating, just new lenses of how we understand the world, like from an energy perspective. So many of these things are just coming in now as like modern, more and more information. Like understanding quantum is just like a scientific thing that's, part of our evolution. So, that's what's going on. People are getting rid of their guilt and their fear and their shame-based programs, purging those things out in this process, and then moving into these majorly spiritual directions. So yeah, thank you so much for that, because we want to have the communities in place for people to go to and find this work. And I love that you have free services so that everyone can start, we want to just have people go to that and find their place. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been wonderful. I appreciate you sharing the good news with everyone.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. It was wonderful to have you. I hope to have you again in the future. I know there was so much more we could have talked about. I actually remember in the beginning of the episode, like so many things I was going to ask you, but I definitely want to have you on again and, spread this widely. Hopefully we get a lot of people bringing awareness to the Tolpakan methods and everything that you built, all of your books, the app. We're going to have it linked all under the episode. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was amazing having you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Edina. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.